We'll go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome to the TIA conference. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad you guys are here joining us early, 8 a.m. this morning. Today we're just going to be talking about data opportunities hidden in your TMS. And this is just going to be kind of an idea. What we want you guys to walk away with today is just understanding that kind of data is one of the things that's going to help drive our industry forward. There's a lot of it. Brokerages themselves have a lot of it kind of in inventory, and kind of walk through some ideas of what's possible, what you guys can be doing with it, and primarily what we're doing. So we're just going to go over a couple high-level topics, understanding TMS kind of 101, what exists, data that we're tracking today, just as brokerages every single day. We're going to talk specifically about carrier sales, the carrier sales piece of the business, and what data exists and what we can start to capitalize on within that part of the business. The opportunities around that, and just the overall impact that we can have if we start utilizing some of this data. So I'm Kurtis with Parade. We're a machine learning company based in San Francisco. One of the things that we're focused on is just helping organizations utilize their data, understand what exists, what the opportunities are, and then we have a product that allows customers to, or brokerages rather, to kind of accelerate their carrier sales organizations. So all brokerages have a TMS. This is kind of that central business unit where data exists, where your guys' customers are at, your carriers are at, and all the data to run that business. Right now, we look at how does data enter a TMS, and it's usually very manual. You have different pieces or different individuals within the organization that have different goals, and utilizing that TMS usually takes some manual entry by carrier sales teams, carrier compliance, track and trace. We've started over the past couple of years introducing some automatic data entry methods. So carrier onboarding is one thing that's been utilizing that. So things like my carrier packets, as carriers get onboarded, we're able to automatically ingest some of that data that would have normally been used entered manually. Things like historical load data, data that exists, it's kind of a passive entry of data. Every time carriers work with you, your TMS is logging this data, and they're not always capitalizing on it, but it exists. And we just need to understand that it's always kind of automatically entering our TMS. So, what's being recorded today, these are some of those interesting pieces that are happening within our TMS that we're not always capitalizing on. So, understanding you've got some different things up here, like time/date loaded book, tender rejection rates, lane preferences. These sorts of things are all pieces that live in our TMS. That are useful, but maybe not as useful kind of in the here and now. But just understand we are logging this. Brokerages have this information readily available every single day. So how we're using it now is just to understand just some certain basic aspects of the business every day. We're booking loads using this data. We're tracking KPIs for our sales teams. We're tracking KPIs for our carrier sales teams. Booking loads, we're using that data within the TMS to find historical carriers that have done those lanes for us in the past, and that's the way we're kind of navigating that carriers every single day. We're looking at rates, using that information to understand what have we historically booked lanes for and that sort of thing. And then obviously our compliance, our insurance, making sure carriers are up to date, that sort of thing, and ready to haul for us. So, with all these things, surrounding in our TMS, there are always different ways we can start to use it. And really the opportunity here is really looking at the business challenges that we want to, understand and utilize our data to start to reverse engineer and start to look at, just these different things. How can we, work with our carriers better? How can we time our load opportunities better with them? How can we target them better? How can we engage with them better? How can we start to measure certain things and really take these business challenges and begin to reverse engineer them using our data? So some specific questions we want to start asking is, from a CSR performance level, how long is it taking a carrier sales rep to book a load? Not just find a carrier, but how many carriers get he contacted? How long would that take? What's the the time savings that we can start to reverse engineer. How can we make those folks more efficient? Down to our carriers, how can we help better offer the correct loads to them? How can we better engage with them? How can we better understand their behavior? And then just strategies, which carriers have best margins, which carriers should we be reutilizing. These are all things that we need to be capitalizing on. And if we're living in kind of a here and now moment, not utilizing our data in a way that helps us make these decisions, we're not doing that as an organization. So, we kind of looked at some challenges here, some questions to ask, and you say, how do we start understanding and solving for those questions? And very basic, this pen and paper method is this pen and paper method is how we kind of start to solve some small problems. It's how we can take a little bit of data and solve, very small, easy problems. Kind of here and now, it's a short-term solution. The next step is how we sort of solve bigger problems, maybe larger organizations with larger data sets. We'll start to use things like Excel, Tableau, Power BI, that sort of thing, to solve some bigger challenges, but ultimately not a long-term solution. And then the top one here is machine learning. This is where we can start to take our organizations, take the data that we have, really find some very complex key challenges, and use machine learning to help us understand large data sets and predict for future outcomes, or begin to understand that us as humans alone cannot conceptualize or handle these complex issues. Let's get the help of another solution to start crunching some larger data sets, so we can start to understand patterns, trends, and really start to dive in on some of these more complex issues. So we kind of talk about what's the opportunity here, or the impact for this data that we have in our TMS. Understand that every single day that our organizations move loads, every single day that our organizations work with customers, we acquire data as companies, and you can kind of think of it as, an inventory on the shelf. This data comes into our organizations, and we don't really use it as best we should, or we don't capitalize on it. And so we want to think of that as a resource for us to begin to understand some larger issues, begin to understand some more complex things, the problems that we want to start solving for. And we all have that data. We just don't necessarily have the tools to really capitalize on what we need, kind of what can be done with that. So when we look at these larger data sets, you can begin to solve for some of these other bigger things here. We talk about pricing is always a big thing for our organizations. How do we price lanes more effectively? We're looking at data that's sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks old from historical loads, from DAT, from whatever it may be, but understand, the data exists in our organizations to get, more deep into it within our businesses, within our customers, and then we can start to then predict on what's going to be a future outcome of that data. You notice prediction up here. These are things that we're constantly doing. Our freight is constantly adjusting. Our carriers are constantly adjusting. How can we start to understand with our data, how can we prepare better every single day and understand where our customers' freight's going to be, where our carriers are going to be, what freight they're going to need in the future. And then timing, that's always a big thing. We're always looking for, carriers to work with our organizations, and sometimes that timing doesn't match up. How can we use our data now to look forward and really start to get our timing better with our carriers to make sure we're offering freight to them as quickly as possible, or, really just at the right time, when they need the freight the most. So, ultimately, what we want to get across here is we've got these TMS solutions that are in place. They can do a lot of powerful things, and we're having our teams, from the sales organization all the way down to the carrier sales, manually enter this data every single day, or automatically through other sources, but it's in this central hub. And the goal here now is, over the next 1, 2, 3 years, we really want, brokerages and organizations to start thinking, how can we better, extract this data out? How can we better utilize this data to really solve some complex challenges and move our businesses forward? And that's really, understanding that your TMS holds the data, holds the power. We just need to get the tools in front of our teams to make sure we can execute on it.